Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Happy Valentine's Day for those that are out there celebrating Valentine's Day. Hallmark loves you. Um, anyways, I would like to talk about a little romance today. L.R. Evans is going to talk about a little romance today. Oh, and trust me, it has nothing to do with us, okay? It has to do with characters in your books. Hello, Luke. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I've been super, super busy, which is awesome. So, yeah. This topic kind of got just pulled out of my. Wasn't the one that came up with it actually. I just texted Jay like, "Hey, it's Tuesday takes. I haven't done a script or nothing for this place yet. I don't know what to do." And it's like, it's Valentine's Day. Why don't you do something romance related, like love character arcs or something? And I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. So I decided that I was going to talk a little bit about how to write romance in your novels. Yay.
Yes.
Not much has happened with the bookstore just yet. This week's been a little crazy, so I haven't got to update it. So now we're in the Chillicothe real estate office instead of the book loft today because there's no point in filming there. So
No problem. Anywhere is good with you. So that's all that matters.
This is facts.
Yeah. How are you doing otherwise? How are you doing otherwise before we go into the characters?
I've been craving writing lately. Been doing some reading. I'm finally reading Magnify. Well, bless me. I'm trying my best. I am such a shitty partner. But I'm reading it now and I'm really starting to love it. I just got past the part where Eleonora and Thog fight, which was awesome. It's at the very beginning, so I'm not ruining nothing for anybody, but I like that so far. I love it when it starts off like that. Like they're just wanting to fucking tear each other's heads off.
Nice.
And I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about, excuse me, enemies to lovers during this Tuesday Take show. So,
awesome! Enemies to lovers, kind of right up my alley for what I'm writing. So yeah. No, it's kind of funny and all that. Is I have your book. I have Diana's book. I have Jay's book. Haven't been able to jump into them yet because of everything I've got going on. Mm-hmm. And now I have Bingo on the way. So Daigle's book. So that'll be another one I get to add to my library of books I haven't read yet, but fully intend on reading. Just to let anybody out there know that if you decide to start a podcast, okay, just so you know, the cloud only has X amount of room. If you use StreamYard, you only have X amount of hours. Your computer only has X amount of storage room. So as you start to make more and more videos, that space that you have left starts to go down. And oh boy, does it add up quick. And this is basically what I do in between is download, upload, get things, put back onto YouTube, put things back up to Spotify and Anchor and on my Patreon and just all of these different things. It's work. And if you remember Cornelia Blackmore, who was the host of the Vellum to begin with, it's one of the reasons why she couldn't be host anymore because of all the editing and stuff that she does. It is time consuming.
Yeah, when I tried, I think early last year before I even got into Twitter Spaces, I think it was like January or February, somewhere around there. I tried to do author interviews on my YouTube channel, and I love doing it, but the editing and saving all the videos, like the original videos and then the edited videos and everything it wasn't. I need so much more storage to be doing all that. And then you need a really good computer for it too, because if you don't have a good CPU or whatever, it'll be all glitchy and now it's malfunctioning and now you got you've lost work and you got to go back and you have to redo certain work. It's such a pain. That's why I
Yeah,
could do it. It was just way too much work for all my busy lifestyle.
it is. It is. And when you have a video that's like, say, 2 gigabytes, okay, and you have it on YouTube and you have it on your computer, and then you're putting it into iMovie to do things, um, that's taking up more gigabytes. It's taking up more space. So one video that's only 2 gigabytes might take up 8 to 10 gigabytes of space. So you got to start deleting and removing and doing all of this, and it's just like, wow, that space starts to add up, starts to go away fast. So
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm learning. If you make note that I'm starting to upload videos from the live to the video section on the tab on YouTube. When you go into YouTube, you have home videos live. Taking videos that I've done live and I'm putting them up on the video section. And the reason for that is I can then delete it from my computer and it eliminates space. And then if I need it again, I can re-download it from YouTube. So YouTube is now storing all of my videos. Thank you, YouTube. I love you.
That's awesome. Yes. I should have thought of that when I was doing my editing. You know what? Hindsight's 2020. That's fine. If I ever decide to do something like that again, I'll do that.
I don't think you could do that back then though, because for me to do it, I have to order premium, which is like $12 a month.
Oh, okay. See, what I was planning on doing was like uploading it and then making it private and then uploading it again and making it like public. So that even if like, well, no, because you wouldn't even have to do that. Like as soon as you upload it, you don't need it no more. Well, you could also upload the originals and make it private, and then you can always
Right.
download it again whenever you need it. So that's actually a really fun way of doing that for you. We're just telling everybody YouTube shit. I'm sorry. We're telling you all how to like start your channels.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. All right, let's get into Cupid, lovemaking, character romance, character this, character that, all the Cupid stuff with romance and writing books and characters. Take it away.
Yes. This one, I wanted to call it playing Cupid with your characters. So basically, you are the writer. So you're the one who gets to make all the love matches. You're God. You are God in your books with your characters. So you've created them. You know their backstory. You've given them their childhood. You've done everything for these characters. You've made them as real as possible, which is important. You want to invest a lot of energy into making your characters three-dimensional. Last week, we talked about character tropes and how not adhering strictly to a single trope for a character was really important because that makes them one-dimensional, makes them just another paper person. Nobody wants to read about somebody who's just this one thing because no person is just one thing. So the more complex you make your characters, the more real they seem to your readers, and the more likely they are to suspend disbelief and fall in love with your characters individually as readers. But now, this week, we're going to talk about making a love relationship between two characters just as realistic. The way that you want to do that is I don't want to just give you one fucking rule for it, but the way that I would do that is to think about how your relationships have developed over the years. The natural progression, one step at a time, into a romance, whether that's friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. I don't even know. Like the weirdest one, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, is like, that weird kind of sense that you have to have somebody like when you're in school or something, like a middle school or high school or something, and like there's dances and shit, and you're like, I need a boyfriend, even though like you're not even really interested in dating or anything at that point, but everybody else around you is doing it. You can't tell me that I'm the only one who felt that way in school, where I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm going to find somebody, right? But it doesn't get talked about a lot, so you feel alone. That would be a really cool trope, I think. But I know that you were talking about your characters, how they were enemies to lovers before we actually started this. So I'm just going to defer to you, and then I'll talk a little bit about Lucid and some relationships I developed there.
Okay, well, in Rainbow Prophecy, Blood Schism Book 1, I have Iris, who is my main character, and she's an intersex character, and she is attacked by Donovan, who turns her into a vampire. Okay, so she initially is assaulted by this guy, and she hates what he's done to her, what he's made her into, and hates the vampires for everything that they do to everything that they will end up doing to her. And she just hates him, can't wait until she can just kill all of them. Okay. And he ends up saving her. So now she kind of starts looking at the good that's in him. So now she's got this love hate conflict going on that, she's starting to develop feelings for him, but yet she is still so pissed because of what he did, you know. And as time goes on and as she finds out more, she sees that he's really a good guy and starts to truly fall in love with him. Donovan starts to fall in love right away with her. That's why he feels the need to save her and do all these things. And then as time goes on, realizes that the vampire blood and the druid blood is what is making this attraction. So now he's starting to question his own attraction to her. So there you have that conflict of now, well, do I love her, or is it the blood that's making me love her? So here we go with this conflict and all that of love, hate, confusion, blah blah blah. Which eventually down the road, you're just gonna have to read the book when it comes out.
Right. And I remember you telling me that Donovan wasn't quite sure if that was his feelings, like if his feelings were valid or not, or if they were something that he was being made to feel.
Right.
You had mentioned that before the show started, and I told you that and for people who watch the Vampire Diaries, you already like made the connection, I'm sure. But it was kind of like the Damon Elena thing when Damon sired Elena. Spoiler alert, by the way, whatever. It's been off for a while. If you haven't watched it by now, it's your fault. But it's kind of the same thing because Damon was just kind of like, well, maybe she doesn't really love me. Maybe this is all just a product of our sire bond or whatever. So even though he was in love with her from the beginning and she had feelings for him prior to that, they just became so much more intense after she was sired that he wasn't sure. He thought he was taking advantage of her basically because like she knew so much, like she had this magical bond that made her want to be with him and stuff. And I love it when things like that are done well in stories. And it sounds like you have really complex characters and lots of complex reactions to the things that are happening to them as well. Just like what I saw in the Vampire Diaries. If you guys don't like the Vampire Diaries, that's fine, but you're wrong. But it's those plot devices, they're there to deepen your characters and make them more complex and to make the story more complex. It breathes life into them when it's done right. And when it's done wrong, it just falls flat. It makes everything seem really forced and but with yours, you're talking about how oh no, I lost my train of thought. Come back. I'm stuck with Vampire Diaries. You were talking about how okay, hang on. How she wasn't sure if she wanted to actually forgive Donovan because this was like a lifelong like change that he made in her and all this good stuff. But as like time goes on and she learns more about the society that he lives in and the rules that they have to follow and all that good stuff, I can see her like slowly beginning to understand like it wasn't really Donovan's fault. He had no choice in this. He was as much a pawn in this game as I am now. And that's then like that's going to be like the catalyst for her forgiving him and for them to end up together. That's going to be what helps her to forgive him. And I love that we have to go through the story and we have to follow Iris through exploring this world before we're able to forgive Donovan as well. Like, so we're going to be forgiving Donovan the same at the same time as Iris does as she learns more and more in the story. I love it. And that's natural. That's That's what we do.
Well, see, because it's in first person, okay, first person present, you're hearing how Iris thinks, but then you hear how Donovan thinks. So you as the reader, you're already starting to forget Donovan because you see how Donovan's pissed with the whole system. So you as the reader, you're going to forgive Donovan way before Iris does. Okay?
Right.
And as Iris is wondering about certain things, it's just like you, the reader, like you already know that, and you're like, oh, just forgive him, just forgive him. And you're going to wonder, like, when is she finally going to get this information? When is she finally going to see this? And then, of course, you know, you got your blockades and you got your turning points and you got your other people that come in and start throwing in influence and stuff like that. So it makes you start to, oh my God, you know, the anxiety that's going to get built up with each and every section and all that, you know.
I almost don't want to know as the reader. I almost just want to see it all from Iris's point of view, but I like Donovan's scenes that you write for him, so I'm not going to say too much there, but I kind of like the idea of being left in the dark and having to follow this character around that also knows nothing. Then again, that's how I write. That's not how you write. Like, because Julian wakes up with fucking no memories and has to explore this whole new world, and the readers are as confused as Julian as we embark on this journey with him. So,
well, and when you get into the other characters like Jameson and how just demented and losing his mind, going mad that he is, and how he's so obsessed over things because he's obsessed over Iris. He has to own her, you know? So, yes. Yes, like I said, when you start to see things how they play out, you know, you're going to be just like, oh my God.
And we are in a unique position as writers to shine a light on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and to teach through the guise of entertainment how to treat one another as people. And I think that's why a lot of avid readers are so much more progressive and so much more intelligent than those who don't read. And I don't care. I'll toot my own horn. I've taken IQ tests before. I'm smart. So
yeah. See,
the
now
numbers don't lie.
Well, now I have this, since we're talking about romance with characters and all that. I'm going to take you over to TJ for a moment. Okay. Because as TJ goes through these different episodes and we get to where he's, you know, finally a man and is dealing with things that are going on. And this person that has been with him from childhood and has been on a lot of these adventures finally opens up that he's in love with TJ. TJ has never truly felt love this whole time and doesn't know how to express it. And this will be the first character that TJ falls in love with, because it's for TJ, not knowing love, only knowing the evils that people do. And of course, you see what he does to people that are evil. And he just considers people that are good to just simply be that. They're good. He just doesn't understand that they actually love him. So this is going to be like a whole thing that TJ, and I'm not going to reveal the character yet, that falls in love with him. And I'm trying to work on that first kiss that TJ has with this other man and try to bring it in and all that.
You brought me back. You brought me back so quick. You said, man, I was like, I'm here.
Yes. TJ's first love is a man. And he's going to be very poly because he's going to have a lot of people that love him that he falls in love with. And he's going to be explaining, why do I have to stop loving one to love another? Why can't I love both?
And the poly bitch. You're singing to me right now.
Yes.
I'm coming out because I want to smoke.
Yes. So this book, TJ, is going to be about love, truly understanding what love is, and those that are incapable of love. You know. So, but building that romance between TJ and I'm going to leave it open so that when we get into it, because there's like four male characters that actually fall in love with him, and again, um, all the women characters fall in love with him too, but there's
Now,
one that, huh?
I do have a question though. Now TJ has mind control capabilities and all that good shit. Like he can get people to do whatever the fuck he wants. So I think like if his romantic interests know that shit, like they're going to be constantly worried, kind of like how the vampires in Vampire Diaries can compel people. It's like, did you compel me to fucking love you? Is that what you did? Like,
Yeah.
you don't like. There's that concern.
They don't know that TJ has powers.
Okay.
All right. Just things happen when TJ's around, and TJ just always seems to know how to handle things, and things seem to just always work out when TJ's around. The bad people always get what's coming to them.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, mine is a little bit different. Like in Lucid, uh I mean, there's poly obviously, but it's mostly gay. I don't have no women. I need to bring some fucking women in the sequel. There needs to be some females that pop. Actually, I do have a female in the sequel that pops up, but that's a huge ass spoiler, and I can't share it. But um, in the first book though, and if you haven't read it yet, then it's on you that this is getting spoiled for you. Sorry, Paul. but but
Okay.
The main character Julian, like he's from the 18th century, so it's like it's illegal to be gay. Like you could fucking get like imprisoned or murdered by the government if like you're caught being gay. So I mean it's dangerous for him to be gay. But when he wakes up in REM, which is the dimension where all worlds meet, and you access it when you go to sleep, like you find like a gate, you fucking show up in REM world. When he wakes up in REM world and finds out that like everybody's totally chill with people who's gay and shit like that, and he has no memories of who he is, and he's starting to slowly like get like attracted to certain men that he meets in the dreams and shit, and then he realizes he's gay when like his memories start coming back and shit. He's got like this whole character arc thing that he's got to go through about self-discovery and coming to terms with the fact that he is who he is and how dangerous it is for him to do that. So he's got a lot of things going against him there. But I think that the way that I wrote the romance in RemWorld, and this is a huge spoiler, so tune out if you don't hear it. He has a romance with Adrian, he has a romance with Miles, and he has a romance with Dazen. So there's three different men right there in RemWorld in the present. That's just like his current relationships. He also had a relationship with Thomas in his past life. So there's a lot of different relationships that pop up there, and they all show you a different side or a different way of being loved. Some of them are toxic and some of them are healthy, but the way that I wanted to write them was I wanted everything to happen naturally. It all comes from creating the characters first. So if you create a solid character and then you create another solid character and you put those two together and just let them react to each other based on like events that happen and shit like that, that's how you're going to see things develop. Like with Miles and Julian, Miles was very progressive. He's liberal. He's a sex worker. He's bisexual. He is very open-minded, very conscious about like mental health and things like that. So when he starts seeing Julian rejecting himself and dealing with like all of these horrible things that he's remembering that happened to him in 18th century London, he's there to kind of like help him through that and like show him that like everything's going to be okay and all that. He's like the comfort character love interest, and I love that. But then like you have people like Adrian, who he's known for like fucking centuries and is just slowly like he has no memories of him, but he just knows in his heart that like he's just so in love with this guy, and he has to like re establish that connection with him, even though like he feels it in his heart. There's no logic to it, so he can't let himself just fall in with this character Adrian because there's no logical reason for him to be in love with this character. So he's constantly pulling away from him, and Adrian kind of has to like re-woo him back to him, which is there's different ways that you can go about it. You can even do that love at first sight thing with your characters, but think about how you would feel if you had that love at first sight feeling. You're not gonna like toss your whole life and decide to put your fucking life on the line for someone that you don't even know, even if you do feel a certain way for them. At least I wouldn't, so you have to think about how you would react in that situation, love at first sight or whatever, if you have a supernatural reason, in order for it to make sense to the reader and not have them like rolling their eyes like, oh, this fucking idiot, you know what I mean? Oh, I know why they're in love for plot, like you have to find like your own clever ways around it, in my opinion. Okay, sure, be loud, that's cool, I want to be your friend on Facebook. Okay, thanks, bye. Anyway. So anyway, I'm done talking about my book now. Go ahead.
Well, that's all right. So in relation to building up a character for a romance, what are some of the suggestions on if you're going to give instruction to somebody on how to write that romance? What would your advice be in writing it?
Okay. Well, first you have to think about both of your characters. Hopefully you know them well enough that you know them inside and out. You know exactly how they'd react at any given situation. Like if their dog dies, you know whether or not they're going to devolve into a sobbing mess, or if they're going to be all stoic and act like it doesn't bother them until it just like it manifests in an explosion of rage, or how they're going to react to certain scenarios in your head. Like you can think of a scenario and you know how they're going to react. When you know your characters that well, that's they're ready for love. They're ready for love at that point. Mm-hmm. Then you take that character, put it in the same room with another fucking character, and give them a situation, give them a problem. And then if the way that they react to one another is favorable, then you have a romance. Potential romance. It could just be a friendship, but usually all of my friendships end in romance when I'm writing. I can't let them just be friends a lot of the times. I'm like, oh, you guys are so sweet together. Kiss.
Right.
But
go
ahead. So now, but that's the way that I would do it. Is you run a test scenario in your head, and if they are getting close enough in your head to where you're like they have to be together, those are your romance. That's your romantic interests. Those are the couples that you need to be writing. But I wouldn't just force them together if they don't work with the characters that you've already, like, after you've already built them up in your head and everything, and they are who they are. Don't change their personalities for no reason, just because you want to see these two characters together, or for a fan service, or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Now, do you write first person, third person, or do you write both?
Right now, I write third person present. I used to write first person, and I used to write third person past and first person present. I decided that I wanted the best of both worlds, so I write in the rarely used third person present, which tends to take some getting used to for those that are used to the traditional first person present or third person past. But I think that it adds a lot more to it because, and I like limited points of view. I don't like omniscient, simply because I have trouble writing it. Just going to be honest. I have had a lot of practice with it. I like the simplicity of being stuck in just one person's head and writing from that point of view. I feel like it brings the readers closer to the characters. Omniscient is great for, getting like a big world, a bird's eye view of the story. So if you are more plot driven, omniscient would be the way to go. But I like third person present because third person is more fantasy. That's more traditional to the genre. And present is more now. It's happening now, and it subconsciously brings the reader closer to the story, to the characters, and to the actions that are occurring in the moment.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, did you find writing romance harder in third person than first person, or vice
No,
versa?
no.
Because see, I find
First,
first person really hard to write, but I find the romance easier to bring into it versus third person, which is what TJ's done. I find third person to be a lot easier to write, but a lot harder to bring the romance in.
okay. Well, I think the reason for that, I've said before that all of my characters have some little bit of me buried inside them. I've said that so many times when I've talked about writing. They're all me in some way, shape, or form. So for me, when I write Julian did this, it's I did this. So that's the
Mhm.
way that I kind of do it. I put myself in that character's shoes very firmly, and it's easy for me because they are me. So they're all self inserts. um, in some capacity, not all, please God. Don't look at Titus and be like, oh my God, Luke, you want to enslave humanity? I don't. Um, um, but yeah, so I think that that's why it makes it a little easier for me is that I'm able to connect with my characters on a very personal level. So it's really easy for me to be like, Julian did this, and I'm like, that's me, bitch.
Right. So you can write either one either way, and it's not going to matter to you. Okay.
Right.
See, I'm having troubles with the third person trying to write romance because from first person, I can see. I myself have all of these different questions when I fall for somebody, and I never catch the signs. Okay, so in first person, I can write both of them missing the signs with each other and putting them out there and wondering if the other person likes them, or what do I need to do to make this person like me, or whatever, or am I just fantasizing this? Because that's how my mind works. So for me, the first person evaluation, playing all the different characters from that first person role, that works real easy for me. Okay. Because I don't have to um write in the third person narrative describing how this person put out a sign and this person missed it, and I don't know how to do that yet. So this is one of the things that's holding me back in the third person is how do I convey like the one person that misses the signs and the other person that gets them and interprets them.
I think that what you're struggling with in that regard is that you're not trusting your readers enough to pick up what you're putting down. And a
Okay.
lot of people do that. I do the same thing. Uh, Basically, like when I want to do something like that with third person, I'll be like, it'll be something like, I'll just give a random example that doesn't even exist in Lucid right now that I can think of. I'll just be like, Julian pulled his hand away from Dazen um, as subtly as he could. Uh, Brill, Brill's eyes flickered from his hand to Julian's hand. And then it'll be like Dazen continued on talking, not noticing a thing or whatever, like not noticing. I wouldn't add the not noticing thing, but Dazen continued on with the discussion, completely oblivious or whatever, like I would do something subtle like that, just show the actions and let the readers see what
Interpret.
happened, right? And they would interpret it their own way. They'd be like, "Oh, Dazen really didn't fucking pick up on that, bitch." Like that's what I would do.
Gotcha. And wow, you just opened up a whole new mind frame for me and all that. So now I'm excited to get back to TJ.
I'm
So
excited to get back to writing. Period. I ain't written in forever. I'm so sad. I'm too busy.
oh I've been really working on Blood Schism, Rainbow Prophecy, because I got to get that done. Yes.
I think I left my keys. Oh, never mind. They're over there. That's fine. I was like, oh God, no.
Don't lose your keys.
Right. What else was I gonna say? Oh, right. The progression of the relationship is also really important. You might want to get to that kiss scene like super fast because like you know how it's going to develop. And you're like, oh my God, I just want them to kiss already. Wait. Please wait. Like, if you really need to write, like for me, it's like, oh my God, like I know what's about to happen. It needs a few more chapters to stew, but I know what's going to happen. I know what's about like right around the corner, and I just want them to fucking bang already. You can open up a brand new document on your computer and just like write a little one shot for yourself. Like, where they finally share their first kiss or they finally screw or whatever the case may be for yourself to get that out because you nobody likes somebody who is premature. Let's put it that way. And that's the same thing for writing. So when you're writing your story, you want to make sure that you are waiting for your readers to get there too before you just pop off on them because it's going if it happens too soon, it's going to be just as bad as if it never happened at all. Because it's the timing wasn't right.
I've got the first kiss in there, and her getting pissed and shoving him away. Like, what the fuck?
Oh no. The first kiss got ruined. That's so sad. It makes me sad.
Yes. And of course, when you go to Donovan's perspective and all that, he's so confused and trying to figure it out, where she's just like, who in the hell does he think he is? Her just reliving everything and going back through it, but then later that night questioning, like, oh my God, I was such a cunt. Oh my God, and then going over and knocking on his door and him not answering. So, I mean, yes, I have a lot of turmoil in the love area going on, along with everything else that's going on in the world of vampires and druids. And then, of course, it's not long after that the first druid comes into play. So,
Another thing I like is the enemies to lovers trope. And I know I keep talking about this, but I really do like it. I like it when they start off where they don't like each other at all and like they get off on the wrong foot. And then it's just like first we have to become friends, and then after the friends, then we finally get I like the slow burn. I like a longer relationship that builds, and they have to learn to trust each other, and then it gets to that point where it's like, actually, you know what I'm thinking. But I don't like it when it's that simple though, because like that happens a lot, to the point that like everyone knows what enemies to lovers is. They know the formula for it. So I like tweaking it a little bit. And what I'm going to do in Insomnia, which is the second book, there is an enemies to lovers relationship, and it's going to get to the point where we come all the way up to the lovers part. We've went from enemies to friends to lovers. We've gotten all the way up to this point where like they finally have the relationship and everyone's like, yeah. And then we're going to find out that it was all a lie on the other person's part. It was a trick. And I can't wait to do that, because now we get to go back to enemies again, but it's going to be a catalyst for another relationship that's going to start with that character that was betrayed. And I'm salivating.
Yes. Now I'm going to bring a little poly into Blood Schism also, but it's not going to go the direction that everybody thinks, and then obviously there's going to be some twists and turns where, I mean, there's going to be poly relationships, but you'll find out that's basically how the druids work. They're very they're a very very poly group of people. So there's going to be some romance there, and some what you think is going to be a romantic relationship, and then what you think is going to end up being a poly relationship, ends up being something completely different. And again, you're just going to have to wait for it to come out. But the romance is going to be, outside of the fact that it's a fantasy horror, basically. The novel is fantasy horror, kind of like what True Blood was. Suki Suki Suki. It's more like that, even though there might be people that think it's a romance. It's not a romantic novel. Trust me, this is a war novel. I don't even think fantasy horror would probably describe it, because there's a lot of politics involved and stuff like that. But you'll see that there's people that love and there's people that hate.
And see, that's how the RimWorld trilogy is too. Like, I don't call it a romance because happily ever after, happily for now, that's not really like the basis of it. Even though the characters and their relationships, either as friends or as like their interpersonal relationships, romantic, friendship, or individual, like who they are as a person is the main focus. And it is a very character-driven book. The main theme isn't about some overarching romance. It's about more like speculative fiction, really. It's about the what ifs. It's about thinking about the universe as a whole and why we're all here and what the big purpose of all of this is, and that kind of thing. That's really what the crux of the RimWorld trilogy is about. It's even though I really focus on the characters.
Yes. No, I'm excited to delve into it. Like I said, I got so much. I can't wait to get this book done. I can't wait to get you the manuscript before I send it off, because I definitely want some fresh eyes on it before I send it off. But
hopefully I'll have time to fucking read it. I haven't even read my partner's fucking book yet. I need to sit down and read it.
Well, I'll be sending it off to you, Cornelia, and Diana. And yes. And there might be a few others that I might involve, simply because there's one I might send it off to Daigle, because I might want that male perspective in there, but basically, this is a really feminist book in so many ways. It really brings in the feminism. Yes.
I'm super excited. It's going to be fun. Okay, so back to playing Cupid with the characters. Let's see. What else haven't we covered? We've talked about pacing. We've talked about one possible trope, enemies to lovers. It really just comes down to character development at the end of the day. Like, if you really want to write a solid romance, that's what it comes down to. It's knowing your characters inside and out, and it's knowing how two characters are going to interact on the page and whether or not they're even fucking compatible from go. You can even write a toxic romance. Like, for real, I love toxic romances. I know that that's kind of fucked up, but I love toxic romances when we know that it's toxic and we know better. And we end up overcoming that. And I think that writing a book with a toxic romance is a great opportunity to teach readers what is and is not acceptable in a romantic relationship too. I love it when we get to the end of that relationship. And because, like, that's what happened with me with the Anne Rice Mayfair Witches trilogy. Like, I couldn't tell that the Lasher romance, but like the romance between the chick and Lasher was toxic. I was like, yeah, fuck that ghost. Yeah, get it on with the ghost. And then it was like, oh, it was all a trick. Fuck. I was like, I was rooting for Lasher the whole fucking thing. And then you go and do this to me. So then, like, it kind of taught me to, like, be more vigilant.
Yes. Now, My stories aren't romance stories, but they have romance in them. So I just wanted to clarify that my stories aren't romance. There's romance in them, and I'm definitely a big difference. I mean, if you're writing the whole book and it's about that romance, that's one thing. There's a lot more development that goes on. There's a lot more taking your time, I think. Then after the romance, once they're together, I mean, there's a lot of movies out there that, the whole idea is that you got two people that love each other. They don't know they love each other. They're falling in love. And then, of course, the woman runs off. The guy chases after. You got the airport scene or the boat scene or the catch them before they leave scene, but you spend the whole movie on this whole thing on why they love each other, and yet they're just too blind to see it. And I'm sorry, I can't deal with those kind of stories that are just strictly that are strictly romance. I gotta have a whole bunch of other things that are going on, and I think that's why mine fits in my story.
I completely get that. And the reason why like the Hallmark movies are so formulaic and why romance novels are so predictable is because they're meant to be. They are supposed to be
right
that predictable. You're supposed to know that these two people that are forming a relationship throughout the entire book are going to end up together happily ever after, happily for now at the end of the book. Like that's the whole thing. Like, how every romantic book is going to end, and that's because the readers expect that. And if you don't deliver on that, they ain't gonna pick it up. And that's why I don't write romance too, because I can't do predictability. Like I don't like it. I like my shit to get like twisted around. That's why what's really funny to me is that you could write an entire book and all it's about are two people, like, will they, won't they, the whole fucking book. And if they don't get together at the end, even if that's your entire plot of the book, it's not a romance. It's not a romance if they don't get together in the end. If it's not happily ever after or happy for now, no, that's not a romance. It doesn't matter that the whole book's about that.
Yeah. Well, see, in book 2, Donovan gets killed. So, I mean, whoops, spoiler alert. So,
come back.
Yeah. So it's like you have this buildup on book 1 where they finally, it happens, and you think that's it. And then in book 2, right at the beginning, which I've already done the outline for it, I kill Donovan.
Nice. Bye, Donovan. Yeah. Time for Iris to find a new romantic interest.
Yes. Well, or become jaded.
Or
become jaded the whole book through. And then the third book.
Now, Donovan's going to come back to life. That's what's going to happen. Anyway, though, don't tell me for real. I'm calling it now. He's coming back to life. I feel it. You're pulling a supernatural on us.
That would be like a daytime soap opera then, wouldn't it?
You'll do it. You'll do it.
Can't have a daytime soap opera.
Sure. You're just trying to throw me off. I already know what's happening here. Okay, well, let's see here. What are some other tips for writing romance? We really haven't run over a whole lot. We just kind of talked about. All right. What's something else? I don't know. Can you think of anything?
I can't think of anything. Probably the only other, I guess, trope would be somebody so just fallen madly in love with somebody, and the other person is just so dorky and blind they just simply can't see it, and and just goes through the whole thing and all that, and it's just like so oblivious, and then at the end it's just like, dude, she's in love with you. What?
There's also like your brother's best friend or your best friend's Not that. Brother's best friend. Only one bed is another trope, which is cool, where you just kind of get like stuck together, or you like forced proximity. I love forced proximity. Forced proximity is great, which is kind of what I did with Lucid. Julian doesn't really want to fucking do anything with Miles at all. Like, if it was up to him, he'd just like stow him away somewhere. And he tries to at first in the beginning of Lucid. He's like, you just stay over there with Adrian and Adrian will look out for you and shit. But then he slowly realizes that he has to be with Miles because Miles doesn't trust him. And if Miles doesn't trust him, then the world might explode. So well, he's got to like be close to him and like gain his trust and slowly becomes friends with him. And that's what leads to like an eventual romance, which is kind of cool.
Right. Well, and then you have the forced bonding, you know, where they're in a dire situation together and the romance develops out of it because they simply have gotten to know each other throughout the whole thing, you know, and it's not about hating each other or being attracted to each other. It's about the situation that you're in. You are forced to become close to where you rely on each other, and then the romance begins.
Like Hunger Games, Katniss and Peeta.
There you go. There you go.
Because she did not want shit to do with him. He was like totally head over heels for her and shit like that. And she did not. She did not care. She had like that Gabe fella or whatever the fuck his name was. But slowly over the course of the books and over the course of the Hunger Games, and just as a means to survive and to protect her family, she ended up having to get into a relationship with Peeta. And then that eventually led to them falling in love, which right. I thought that was brilliantly done. I loved that. But it wasn't about the romance in Hunger Games either. It was about survival. It was about overcoming these serious issues and the strength of will as a character. And it was about mental illness. It was about so much. I loved Hunger Games.
Yes, that was well written. It was well written.
It was. I love the actual ending of the third book of the Hunger Games. They did not do it justice in the last movie. You remember when she was like she sat there in the you've read the book, right?
No.
Ah, shit. All right. Well, for those who have read the book, where she's sitting there in her like fighter suit, her Mockingjay suit, and she just sits there for like months without fucking moving. Like people are bringing her food and shit like that, and she's so fucking PTSD riddled that she does not give a shit. She's like, I'm gonna just sit here. And then finally she gets up one day and she peels off the suit and like just flakes of skin like crumble off of her and shit when she's taking it off because she hasn't fucking bathed this entire fucking time. Right. Like it was so detailed. I was like, damn, like that's how you write fucking stories for real. That was fire. I loved it.
All righty. I think we pretty much got it covered. What do you think? All right. Well, everyone, remember, happy Valentine's Day. Love the one you're with. Be happy, be kind, and may good things come your way. Meow. Meow.